Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's Ron with Ron's Computer Videos. Hey, I recently went to a really cool event in Elmhurst, Illinois. That was the Vintage Computer Festival Midwest. And I met some really great fellow enthusiasts and fellow YouTubers and fellow social mediaites, Twitter gods, and all kinds of cool people. And I thought, heck, we should get together. Maybe we should do a little bit of a sort of a wrap up of that event and kind of talk about some of the neat things that we saw there at the event. So how about we just kind of go around and do some introductions, and then we'll launch directly maybe into kind of a conversation about things. Sound good?
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
Great. Adam.
Hey.
Hey.
I'm Adam. I'm not a YouTuber like most of you guys, but thanks for inviting me. I am just a retro computer nerd, Apple IIs, Macs, and I watch some of you guys on YouTube, and I'm on Twitter, and I'm not sure who the first person was that told me about this event, but I think it might have been Steve from Mac 84. But then I was on Twitter and everybody kept saying, oh, I'm going to this thing, I'm going to this thing. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be left out. That sounds really cool. So I jumped in a plane and sped off to see all you guys.
Very
so
cool.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Chris.
Yeah. Right. So hi, I'm Retro Tech Chris. I've got a YouTube channel about basically PC compatibles and hardware, software, and just doing weird and crazy experiments. So that's what we're all about. So yeah, Vintage Computing Fest Midwest. That's a mouthful. I think I got it right. So yeah, I'm trying to remember where I heard about it first, but I think it was really, I heard about all the other festivals, and then I heard there was a Midwest one. And in my case, I had some airline points that I wanted to use and wanted to go and meet some folks as well. And I booked the trip before my wife found out. So that worked out pretty well. But yeah, I can't remember exactly where I heard about it for the first time, but it was certainly fun to attend and meet everybody. And it's good to be here with you guys tonight.
Cool. Ryan.
Yeah, Ron, thanks for inviting me. My name is Ryan, and I go by Mr. Macintosh, and I have a YouTube channel called Mr. Macintosh, but I cover newer Macs. So everything has to do with, for example, all the macOS Big Sur, macOS Monterey, all the newer T1 and M1 Macs, and I cover all kinds of different things. And one of my main focuses is getting unsupported older Macs on the latest operating systems to extend their lives as long as possible. That's my main goal, because I think technology should be used as long as possible to get our hard-earned money's worth. And I first found out about the show when I was watching a video about one of the original shows in a swap meet in California in Silicon Valley. And they showed video, and this is probably in the mid 90s and in the video, and they show all these people walking around a parking lot looking at all this vintage tech. And I'm thinking, I got to go to that. So I looked around and I found out, well, shoot, they're making this show all the way to the United States, and found out that they had one in the Midwest, and went 5 years ago to the second location in the Chicagoland area, and they've moved to this third one now. Every time they've outgrown it. So the first time I went, it was just basically a smaller conference room with a little bitty small room that had vendors. So they quickly outgrew that, and now they're in location, and they're already starting to outgrow that. So that's how I found out about it, and this is one of my favorite shows of the entire year.
Very cool. Super Mole.
Hi, Super Mole Retro. My name's Steve. I've been going to this festival since, gosh, I don't even know how long. 2011, 2012, so 9 or 10 years. It originally started out in Lombard, Illinois, in a college campus. That's where they started their festival. Then Jason Timmons of the Vintage Computer Festival, and Jason Compton of the Emergency Chicago Commodore Club. Them two kind of put heads together and merged the convention into one group, and eventually other groups came in, the Atari group and others, and it kind of evolved into what it is today. So it started in Lombard, then it moved to Elk Grove, Illinois. That's where I started attending. Then outgrew that, and every year it's grown and grown, and now it's in Elmhurst. It's been there I guess 3 years. This is the third year it's been there. But yes, this year was even bigger than the last, even with all the world situation going on. So it's pretty amazing.
It's amazing. Dave.
Oh, thanks, Ron. I'm Dave, and I professionally, I'm a computer research scientist, and I have a YouTube channel called Dr. Dave's Diversions. So join me over there if you're interested in some of the things that I do. I'm a Gen X person, so I look to 90% of my content is about machines that I use since and still have since the 80s, hardcore Amiga and Commodore stuff. But because it's just called Diversions, I let myself do whatever I want, which you'll certainly find over there. And I'm going to put up a couple of things from VCF Midwest. First time I was ever there, I heard about it from, thankfully, from Chris. And one thing, you guys did a good job of characterizing what it's about, especially Steve, about the history of it. One thing I think is curious about it is it's called VCF, like the East and West ones are, but this is not affiliated with those. It's called Vintage Computer Festival, where the other ones are Vintage Computer Federation, and they're different nonprofits. So it's just a coincidence, and it makes sense that they all say VCF, but the acronyms mean different things. Anyway, I live in Madison, Wisconsin, so it was just a 3-hour bus ride down to O'Hare. And, you know, for about $400 total, I was able to meet these great guys and spend a couple days down there.
It was a good time. All right. Last but not least, probably the drawing the most water, Steve.
I wet myself. What happened? I got confused. So I'm Steve from Mac84. I have a YouTube channel and of the same name. I'm also on Twitter as Mac84TV. So you probably saw me there maybe. But this was my first VCF Midwest event. I've been to a few of the East Coast of the United States events, starting maybe around the early 2000s or so. And so this was probably one of the largest ones I've went to in recent memory, because a lot of the earlier ones have sort of, you know, disintegrated with things being on eBay and stuff like that. It sort of wasn't a drive for these people to come and sell stuff, you know, in mass quantities. But I think I heard about Midwest a year or two ago. I saw some pictures, and I was really reminded of it by Ken of the Computer Clan. So he was really sort of twisting my arm. Oh, you should go, you should go. And I'm thinking, well, it's kind of a big trip. And I thought the plane ticket would be more expensive than it was, but thankfully I seemed to have flown at a weird time where it wasn't too bad. And it was really just taking me back to the early events that I went to in the early 2000s, just the amount of people there, the amount of cool things that were there. I mean, there were exhibits, there were things to buy, there were talks. The YouTube talk was a great one, particularly of my interest. There was an auction. There's so many cool things there, and I certainly want to go back, but maybe I think I had to fly and then drive back or something, because there's too many goodies that I couldn't resist, as all of you saw.
Very cool. And I had an amazing time as well. I just kind of went in and just wanted to kind of see everything and talk to everybody and just sit down and kind of rub elbows with people that are, you know, part of this hobby as well. And it seems like folks really did have a good time. I didn't see anybody, you know, just running out the door with like a frown on their face. They all saw something, or even people that just kind of day tripped it and just kind of looked at what was on display. Sometimes that nostalgia is good for your soul, and you can just go in there and kind of relive things. So many great exhibits where you can just go in and just, you know, put your, like, touch some of those old memories.
Yeah, it was very nostalgic to walk into one of those ballrooms and just smell the dust burning off of the CRTs, and I'm like, oh wow, I haven't smelled that in years.
So for the folks that had not been before, when you going into this thing, I had no idea what to expect, other than just seeing pictures online or talking to Supermole Retro about like his past experiences and things. But what type of expectations did you have going in, and did the show really kind of live up to what you had built up for yourself? So Chris.
So it exceeded my expectations. So I'll be perfectly honest. The reason I went was to see all you guys, and also any subscribers or anybody I hadn't met, because that was really the motivation. And I figured it was going to be more, when I thought vintage, a little bit older than the types of machines I work on, and was very pleasantly surprised to see it was a great mix of machines, because I'm kind of an IBM PC compatible guy, which kind of is more retro than vintage. I know that different folks have different definitions. So it was impressive to be able to see all the machines there. It was very exciting. So it exceeded my expectations, and just the sheer amount of things there. I'm sure we'll talk about the for sale tables at some point during the chat here tonight. Yeah, my eyes were wide open. It was really something to see. So yeah, it exceeded my expectations.
David, you said that you had been to maybe some other conventions like this, but had you been to this specific one before?
I hadn't even heard of this one before.
Okay.
So much thanks to Chris. He's been a hub of meeting people in the YouTube community to me since I just started my channel late last year, or I started doing this kind of stuff on it anyway. And I hadn't even heard of it before, despite living in this area for decades. But I'm a ham, and I have been to many ham fests back when I was a teenager, and it was very much like that kind of vibe. The thing that about my expectations, it certainly met and exceeded them. I was so impressed with how sort of one for all for one, the people that attended it were, and the people that ran it from the club. Really professionally done, perfect kind of venue, modest in terms of costs, but big and filled the whole way. I wasn't really interested in shopping there. I came with a backpack on the bus. I wasn't going to carry, chassis and home and stuff. So I was super happy that there were so many demos. I like that part. I like I guess I would say the hackathon part almost, which isn't really what it's there for. They want to show you their thing, but I found a couple of people that were willing to let me play with their equipment and talk with them about it. That's the part that I loved. The spending time with individuals that you've not met before and seeing what awesome thing they did, and also making them feel good about it, because in the pandemic era, we've not gotten to interact a lot. So I just loved it. I've made some new friends during the pandemic, but mostly thanks to YouTube, and some more thanks to this.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention on that too is that with being in a pandemic, one of the mandates was asking people to wear masks too. And for most people who might be healthy, it would be for them not to wear it. It's one thing, but a lot of people also have their own medical issues or have someone at home who has issues. So to go there and see that literally 99% of the people thought about all of the other people at the event, that goes to show what kind of people are there. They were very respectful, and that was one of the things that really truly impressed me of all the people that went there.
Absolutely. No, you're right. You'd be hard pressed to see somebody that didn't have a mask on, or wasn't like, if they were taking it off, it's because they were outside, kind of outside the venue. But let's go Mac84 and then Adam, and then I've got a follow-up question for Mr. McIntosh and Super Mole Retro, just because you guys have kind of been there and seen it and done it.
Sure, you bet.
Yeah, so this is my first time at the event, and it really exceeded my expectations. Like I was saying before, it sort of brought me back to a lot of the old events I used to go to. There were 2 ballrooms full of stuff. There was hallways full of stuff. The event was free, which was excellent. I was used to, some of the events I used to frequent, it was like a $10, $15 thing, which when I was younger, that was like, well, that eats into my spending money. You had to plan ahead, but it was so gracious of them to set up this type of event. Obviously, there are ways to support them via donations and donating things to the auction and this and that. But it was really cool just to see the mix of things. Yeah, you had computers for sale, you had demos that people were exhibiting, you had people from YouTube and such that were just bringing some cool stuff you've seen on their channel. There were a bunch of people who just had these cool Apple displays set up, and then there were machines, which I love because I don't know everything. The machines I've never even seen it before, never heard of before, and people were more than happy to say, oh, this is a HP whatever terminal, whatever, and show you a demo. It was live, it was running there. People were just so approachable. They were so happy to just show off what they brought or talk to you about it, give you a demo of something. I thought that was really cool, and it was very nice of people to sort of open their equipment, because a lot of times you'll see the stuff behind glass, or it's not interactive or whatever. But it was also cool just walking around. You saw some guy soldering something to try and fix something. There was some guy printing out banners and things like that. So I think it was really a cool event. It sort of touched on all the things that I like to see out of those type of events. Obviously, I always look to see if there's any cables or parts or pieces to pick up, which is always cool because you never know what you're going to find. That's the exciting part of it. And of course, there's the free pile. So who could say no to that?
Absolutely. Adam.
Yeah, so I just got back into the like old computers like a year ago. Like basically when I was stuck at home for a while, I got back into it. But in the past, I had always been into old Macs and Apple II stuff, and I had gone to shows like back in the '90s where they had the stuff for sale and they had a couple demos and whatever and some talks, but it seemed like every booth or 90% of the booths was just some guy selling you like cheap mouse pads or disc notchers or whatever. Like they just had some Chinese product that they were just trying to hawk. What I liked about this, I thought was pretty cool, is that people were selling stuff, but it was like boards they designed themselves, or it was something they invented or something they collaborated with some other guy on, and they're like, hey, check this out, or just like software. And you know, the products all vary, like from like really professional down to like, you can tell like a hobbyist made this thing because maybe he's only going to sell 4 of them. But everybody seemed to have everything like, this is what I'm really into and I want to share it with you. And that's not what I used to see in the old days. And that's why I really liked this show, is because it was everybody helping everybody else out. And also, unlike the old days, it was platform agnostic. So I mean, you could have IBM guys and Apple guys and Atari guys and everybody just likes everybody else. It didn't used to be that way.
There's even one MSX machine there. One.
Yeah, I saw some machines. I saw some machines I never thought I'd see in person, which was cool.
It's on MSX next to an Amstrad, which I never thought I'd even see in the US.
Yeah, same.
You know, to touch on what you were saying too, Steve, Mac84, is that with the machines that were out there, there was hardware out there that was worth over thousands of dollars, right? And it was all out there for everybody to be able to touch and feel, and everybody had respect for that too.
Yeah.
They didn't go crazy with it or move it around. They just touched it as something that was, special to that person. And that was another thing that was really nice to see too, that people could have that kind of stuff out there and people could look at it and see it. Like, again, there was stuff there that I've never seen before because it's so rare and expensive that you would never see it unless you purchased it yourself. So that was another neat thing.
Yeah, the guy with the Apple One, that was incredible.
Yeah, literally there was an Apple One.
Yeah.
There's 25 in the entire world.
And
this couple had it sitting on a table. You could literally get up and be a foot away from an original Apple One. Where else are you ever going to be able to do something like that?
Yeah, museum otherwise.
Yeah, it was really cool to see up front.
Did you guys see though that somebody had written on it? I went up there.
Yeah, some guy that
I was like,
Apple. I don't know.
This is just going to hurt the value, guys.
Some Woz guy.
Yeah. Those guys named Steve. They're always troublemakers. Steve.
They always have to put their names on things.
I know. It's always marking it. So, Super Bowl Retro and Mr. Macintosh, since you guys had been to this event before, what are some of your favorite reoccurring things about the Vintage Computer Festival Midwest? It's a mouthful.
You can go first, Steve.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, please.
I'm kind of used to what they have at the festival. I see it when I go up there, and I know it's going to get bigger every year. My favorite thing to do is to convince and bring brand new people up there to see what their reaction is to it, to be honest. I was bringing my college friend, started going up with me, I don't know, probably 3 years ago. He was really impressed. He's not even into the old computers, but he remembers them. And I started bringing another person up named Jason. He went up with me a couple times. Then I brought you this year. So that's really my favorite part, is introducing new people to this that may have not known that it even occurred. And it's fun. It's fun to see the reaction and talk to them afterwards and see what they thought and what they enjoyed the best. Honestly, that's my favorite part.
For me, the going to the show has been a singular issue or a singular thing for me, meaning that in the years past, I would enjoy this hobby, but only me. And that's, I feel like that's just a certain level. But coming this year and getting kind of back into it more heavily into the retro community, and I've talked to some of you online already, so it was great to meet you guys in person. That brings the show to a whole nother level, because I feel like I was able to for once, for the first time, experience this with other people that I know and see the look on their faces and say, hey, yeah, this is great. It's not just me, one person going to the show and say, yeah, this is pretty cool. And for the other people, like meaning you, Steve, Supermole, and Chris, there, it's almost like we instantly bonded because it was something that we all enjoyed. And we were instantly being able to just talk and talk and talk. And same with you, Ron, too. You know, and that was one of the things that I enjoyed most about the show, and it made it 10 times better for me. And there is some people that come there every year, but that's fine. And it's interesting to see new people. For example, there was a guy there that brought he brought literally like half of a Silicon Graphics computer collection there. And some of those are so rare that you rarely even see them online. So seeing something like that in person too is always something that's really neat to see when you come to the show.
Yeah, it was for me, it was exciting because I actually ran into people that I've met locally in New Jersey from other previous events. And I said, do you live out here or are you local? And no, I always just come out to the event. It's like, okay, that's cool. Familiar faces all the way out there. It was pretty neat to see.
Just gonna say this, any other events I go to, I'm bringing all you guys with me because it was a blast.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You're all going with me.
And that's very true. There's a camaraderie kind of aspect to these things where I would go through the hall and I would bump into Dave, be like, hey Dave, see anything else cool? And be like, oh yeah, did you see this thing over here? And I'd walk through and I'm like, Adam, what are you doing for lunch today? Or, you know, just trying to kind of work with your circle and because people see things that you didn't. And and so it's great to have an extra set of eyes on things. Or I told Supermole, I was like, hey, when you're out and about, if you see such and such, like, you know, let me know, because that's absolutely what I'm looking for. And there were a couple of instances where I went through and I was just digging through a box and it would be like, oh wait, here's a bunch of, like, you know, dead Mac motherboards. You know, could Mac 84 use these as part of his repair biz? And, you know, because there's a lot of specialty chips and things like that you can't just source otherwise. You've got to have dead boards. So, you know, just finding those things, trying to help other people in the community.
I think we were all dangerously enabling each other in one way or another.
But Steven, Ron, just think of the thing, like if we were just haranguing each other, if we just met and had coffee, we'd be telling each other these stories about these machines. You know, it was like show and tell. When Ron and I walked around, or my college buddy who lives down there, he joined too. And we just walked around and we're like, I'm like, that machine, I got promoted to having that terminal in 1991 when I, you know, finished a project in my work. That's the machine I used in high school, TRS-80 Model 3. I loved the show and tell part because, I mean, you know, of course you could have, you know, harangued and bored each other about the thing, but it literally is, the stuff's right there. And if you're bored with it, you turn the other direction and Ron tells me about what he knows about that machine and when he used, you know, a 3270 at his campus and stuff like that. I liked that part.
Or I tell Mr. McIntosh a really long and boring story about working at Montgomery Ward.
I don't care what anybody says, that was a good story.
So, but we're kind of hitting on that thing about where you go through and you kind of see stuff and you're like, you know, I may not be interested in this, but Chris, is this something you're looking for? Or, you know, I don't necessarily collect Sinclair stuff, but Adam, I can tell by the collection of floppy drives on your wall that you love Timex Sinclair machines. So it's what type of cool pickups did people make at the event? Let's start with Dave, since Dave came here specifically with the purpose of not going home with more stuff.
Yeah. So what happened was I got a little tired in the evening, and then you're susceptible. It's like, you know, it's like the impulse items at the checkout at the grocery store. So I'm walking through and I see this, an Adaptec. Oh my God, an AHA 3940 UW. 2 SCSI buses, an ultra wide. I'm like, this is something I couldn't afford in 1997 when I was building, you know, a dual core Pentium 450, and it was probably $350 then. It was Saturn sticker for $20. I'm like, I got $20 in cash. This will fit in my backpack, so I picked that up.
Nice.
So like that thing I like because you didn't have to dive into the stuff that was a little too expensive. You could have just gone like, if this was 10 years older, then you'd get to the point that it's costing what it costs. Like for instance, I saw an AMAX cartridge, which is near and dear to my heart. I have one. The guy said 250 because that's what they go for on eBay, and he goes 150. But even 150, it cost 135 in 1989, and it was like 150 now. And so like at least I got to see it and kind of figure out, plan my future finances. But
so, Mr. McIntosh, any cool pickups?
Well, I mean, as Steve Mac84 knows, we enabled each other multiple times where I'm telling you, I didn't think that I was going to find, because there were some holes in my collection that I wanted to fill. And one of the ones was a Molar Mac that I've been after for probably like 10 years, right? And I've been able to talk to multiple people that have been selling them in the Midwest area, and they've all the deals fell through. And at the show, Matt, that guy that was selling the Next Cube and all those other really neat things, he had a wonderful table, and he had one sitting there. So I walk up and I see it on the floor. I'm going to ask him, but he's talking to another guy, and I see they're doing a PayPal transaction. So I'm looking at him like, well, what could he be purchasing here? And as soon as he finished the transaction, he went up and picked up the Molar and walked away. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, right? So we're walking around, and this guy's setting up a brand new table in front of the show. And what does he put on the table? He's got a Molar Mac there. So I immediately talked to Steve. I'm like, we got to go look at this. And I'm like, maybe Steve, you can give it a once through. So he opens it up and looks. He's like, yeah, he gives it the thumbs up. And we made a deal. And he even threw an extended keyboard, Mac extended keyboard in too. And I just couldn't even believe it. It's stuff like that just pop up when you think that all these things fall through. And then that one, it just shows up out of nowhere. It goes to show you, you just got to keep the search up. You really do. And we'll talk. Do you have the auction in another section, Ron?
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. But no, that was and one other find too, is that I've got an Apple II GS, and Steve and I are walking around, and he tells me he finds 2 system savers, and I've been after a system saver for the same amount of time. He's like, well, hey, I'll sell you one. So he gave me like the supersonic friends and family deal on one. And I was just looking at that thing yesterday. I'm like, I finally got a system saver. It's not even a computer. It's just basically a thing where you plug in your monitor and your 2GS, and it's got a fan in it. But to me, I've been looking for that dang thing forever. So that's really kind of completing my 2GS. So thanks again, Steve. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, I made the deal for 2, and I said, well, what am I going to do with this one? I said, well, I know a bunch of geeks around here. It'll go quick.
That's great.
Steve's going to start charging you to be a personal shopper. I didn't know I could use your service.
And see, don't forget to tell the story about the box of accessories. Hopefully you can.
Oh yeah, I'll mention
story.
that.
Okay. That's it for me. Thanks.
Super Mole.
Well, I'm pretty much good on hardware. As a matter of fact, I had 3 tables up there, and I pretty much cleared the tables, but I got a whole lot more than that. So I basically went up just for if there was something that caught my fancy, and I bought some Amiga games. I bought King's Quest 2 and 3. I also got 1 and 2. They're over there someplace. And it's not just all about computers there. They also had video game systems, and somebody had a 3DO, and I bought a 3DO with, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 games. So I picked those up there. I was happy to get that. That's something I didn't have. So yeah, that was my pickups.
That's crazy because I didn't even see that, so that just goes to show you that you can.
That's because I bought it. I bought it the first day we were there.
First day.
Yeah, that was a Friday night pickup.
You could go up and down these aisles so many times and just totally walk past some of these things. And that's the thing that really kicked me for sure, that you could totally miss them just walking, miss these little things.
Yeah, you're right. I did not even see the Apple One up there, believe it or not. I didn't see an Apple One.
Yeah, that was a late edition, but that's one of the things, if you were eager enough to go into the show and you were setting up tables, you kind of got a little preview for Friday, and some things were already selling before the show officially opened. I think the Lisa that we saw sold before the show even officially opened the next morning. So that, like Mr. McIntosh was saying, you got to keep your eyes peeled, because you go down the same aisle 50 times and you might miss something.
And there's an archaeological sort of aspect to this, much like going to Computer Reset or something, where there's a layer of stuff to buy, and then people come in and kind of pick through and then move things around and then unearths new treasures. And then you can go through and pick through those. So I was seeing new things on some of these vendors' desks, like all the way up until like noon on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
There was a guy that like under his desk, it was like, oh, it's just like a box of like newspapers. And no, they were oscilloscope screens, you know, like big, huge tubes, you know, from like really old oscilloscopes. And I was like, wow, somebody needs all this. Not me, but someone conceivably.
The Free Geek guys didn't even come till like 12 o'clock noon that Saturday.
Yeah.
If you came to the show early on Saturday and then just kind of hit the road, you would have missed out on all the deals that they had too. So yeah, there's always something happening.
Yeah. Adam, did you make any good pickups?
Well, yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
I flew in and I told myself I'm not going to buy anything big.
Famous last words.
I'm going to buy like a circuit board, or I'm going to buy this SPF or whatever. But no, I said, well, this Apple II's cheap,
Platinum.
so I bought that. But my thing is that I like to find goodies inside normal things. So that Apple II had a nice big RAM card in it.
Ah, nice.
And then I'm like, well, that's not enough stuff, so I have to buy this Mac 2 CI.
Ooh.
And this has a Radius video card in it, which I've been looking for 100 years.
There you go.
Which is a 24-bit.
Wow.
Nice card.
Yeah.
So, and then I said, well, now I have to have a disk drive for my Apple II. So I got the Duo disk that you guys have seen. And then I got a gift from Mr. Mac 84. He got me this little power bank for the Mac SE. It was a $5 item.
Yeah.
But the best thing I got, and I'm an Apple guy, so this is hilarious, is a destroyed PC Junior.
That's great.
It
I was
comes
waiting
with
for that.
an invisible floppy drive. $5.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
And please tell us who you horrified with that at the show.
oh,
You just horrified
LGR.
me.
I brought it to LGR and I said, check this out. And I opened it up and showed him all the destruction inside. And all he said was, oh no.
Hey,
So-
Steve, having Adam talk about that card that he found, we got to tell the story about that Radius 2-page display that we saw at the show too, maybe later.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, I got some video of that. I too. So that's oh, that thing was sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I posted a picture of that on Twitter and I tagged him in it. And then he told a whole story about all the backstory on Twitter about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love that stuff. Like you meet somebody in passing at a show and you find them on Twitter or Discord or something. So that Big Sun server that, you know, I think they were auctioning off. I was just curious how much it went for. And I just happened to find the guy at Discord. And he's like, oh yeah, it was $40. This like massive tank of a server.
Chris, did you make any good pickups?
Yeah, so I went there kind of like Dr. Dave with the backpack. I wasn't going to buy anything. And well, I was wrong. But I am an exclusive shopper. And I only shop at Free Geek. So I did buy some nice EDO memory here. And, you know, one of these deals, because you never know when you want to hook up your Model M keyboard. And then since everything's networked in the house, I did pick up a couple of ICE and network cards. And I had to get this one because it's D-Link. And I thought that was cool. So then I got this one here, which is Intel. So yeah, that was pretty much it.
Oh, yeah.
So the people who got the cards from Free Geeks, and they came in, they were all, you know, in a box. Did you guys try them? Were they working? Has anybody tested them out yet?
I haven't. I've got some very special machines I'm going to try them on first. before I do anything with them. But yes, no, I haven't tried them, but I'll probably do it in a live stream.
I mean, they were so cheap, it doesn't even matter, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
you're
like-
taking it, if you win big, right?
Yeah.
It's so
exactly.
cheap, you just leave them on the table, right, Ron?
Yeah,
Oh,
you just leave your stuff on the table and don't take it with you.
Well,
Jeez.
Steve, isn't that where you and I got the iMac keyboards from in that box of junk?
Yes, yeah. So
So yeah, I've got my
there you go.
$5 iMac keyboard, and it does work. Every key, I tested it.
And that's the long cable one, right?
This is the well, I shouldn't call it iMac. It's actually for Graphite Tower.
Yeah, as an extra long USB cable. Do you want me to go, Ron? And I guess
I actually, since you have the longest list, I've got a short list of things because I'm just saying, because some of your
We're gonna
pickups
fade
are
out with
technically-
Steve.
Yeah, it's like technically some of your pickups are now my pickups
I'll just talk
until
real
you
fast.
pick them up again.
Yeah.
But I didn't pick up a whole lot. I had a couple of people kind of strong arm me into buying things. I did get a shirt. I also bought, I went to a guy's table and he had one Macintosh item on his table, which was like a very strange keyboard adapter for like AT or maybe even XT. I've still got to look it up. I know, Steve, you looked it up, but you were kind of telling me about it. But it's like it looks like an AT style keyboard port and a serial mouse connection, and sort of adapts those to ADB.
Yeah,
I don't know all the details.
No, I actually
It's
saw
got-
one of those the week before after you showed it to me. I had actually found that exact adapter on eBay,
Really,
and I looked it up, and it does exactly what you're saying.
it is somewhere in my stuff. I looked for it tonight because I was going to bring it and hold it up, and I guess I took it in the house or something. So, but I got that. I also found a Voodoo One card, which I've been trying to pick up a Voodoo One for a while. This one had like some repair stuff done to it, so it may not work, but it was only $5. So I really, not too been out of shape if it doesn't work. Found some video adapter or like video cables and stuff like that I was looking for. I got an ADC connection, which if you've ever watched Computer Clan, Ken's shirt where it's got that high density specialized Mac connection down to like Adam, you did the exact same thing only before me. So
Yeah.
great minds think alike, I guess.
Signed.
Yeah, so I had him
Ron,
sign that.
Could you wear it as a belt buckle instead of a shirt? No, that's it.
Maybe
That's
so.
a good idea.
But I also got a couple of things given to me because I got clocked at the show, and people were like, "Hey, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." I was like, "Sorry." And they were like, "Oh no, like I saw such a video and it was cool," and I was like, and I was looking at items and they were like, "Well, what do you think? How much for this?" And I was like, "I don't know." I said I kind of promised I wasn't going to bring anything home, or I wasn't going to spend a bunch of money. And so people were like, "Oh, well, just take it. You're the only person that's looked at this thing. Just take it." So it was like an Apple Color One scanner, and I was like,
nice.
"Oh yeah, that'll be like a fun thing to play around with." So so there were a lot of generous people there that took pity on me last weekend and were just like, "Hey, just take this thing." So Steve, with the Mac 84 with the massive list of stuff you picked up,
It wasn't that. It wasn't that.
Yeah, right.
I've had bigger pickups before. No,
Every time you were walking, you were carrying something. And I saw
Yeah.
you. Every time.
I shared. So the first thing I picked up was the preview night. There was that Commodore printer that was very tiny. And I think one of you guys pointed out and said, "Look, Steve, it's only $10." And that was enough to twist my arm.
Was it the 803?
I
The
forget
kind of
I forget the
charcoal
name.
gray.
It was little. Yeah, it was a charcoal
Yeah.
brownish kind of printer. Very small. Now we do have a
You didn't-
Commodore, so I want to play around with it. But sorry, what'd you say, Steve?
An Aki data?
No,
that
it
what
was
the
a
brand
it was a Commodore brand.
I was thinking isn't there like an MPS 803 that's that big? I think the 801 is the tan and black one, and then maybe that was the 803.
Yeah, it's just this little baby printer. I have the photo right here, and my thumb is covering the number, but MPS something 03. So that's the little guy there.
oh yeah,
But that fit in my small luggage. So that was good. So I picked that up. The next thing I got was the guy who had the Next Cube and the G4 Cube and everything. His name was Matt. He had a pair of Flower Power iMacs, and there was no way that I thought I was going to buy any iMacs because my garage is full of them, and how am I going to get them home? But he was originally selling them, I think, for $400. and he had actually got somebody to buy them, but he went to plug in a mouse and keyboard to test, and it turned out the USB ports had like the little white thing that would hang under the port to make the contacts missing, I think on both of them. And so the guy, wasn't interested. And so he ended up selling them for like half price to me. And you guys convinced me that that was a smart decision. I mean, you don't see those models too often. And again, a big thanks to Ron for keeping them company. I know he's putting little hats on them and dressing them up and making sure they're comfortable.
They already have blindfolds on holding today's paper. So it's don't worry, because there's going to be a lot of trolling on this.
I was given a freebie from one of the Steves, and it was a Santi Talk adapter. I already had one, but it's sort of set up permanently with my Apple II GS. So he was very gracious. He said, just take it. So that was so kind of him. I picked up a bunch of cables and adapters and stuff. The one thing that Ryan and I were drooling over is we walked by this guy's table, and I bought an Apple 800K floppy drive from him. And he had a few Apple things there. I think that's where Adam got his Duo disc from. And very nice guy. He had a bunch of stuff, but he had this box full of Apple cables and wires and mice and stuff. But there was like I think he had an Apple II clone, and the lid from the Apple II clone was on top of it. So nobody really saw what was inside the box. So Ryan's walking by and I'm walking by. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's all this stuff. But the seller wasn't there. So we waited like 15 minutes for the guy to finally come back. And I mean, he had Mac Plus, style mice in there, which they go for a sizable sum on the road. And I just thinking, well, maybe should I offer one mouse? What should I get from it? And the guy comes back, and I'm trying to make a deal with him. He doesn't really know what he wants to sell. So it's like, how much for the whole box? And he goes, $50. It's sold. And I think I gave Adam an adapter from it. I gave Ryan an adapter from it. So it's like, I didn't need to keep all the cables. I just wanted a few bits from there. But that was exciting because Ryan and I were like vultures on that table. We were just waiting for the seller to come back. So that was exciting.
You're making me think
until he struck a deal.
Yeah,
that's all there was to it. We were like, we'll put the thing under the table if we need to.
Steve, you're making me think my hypothesis for the next one is the VCF, like the translation for "just take it" is here's your hat. What's your hurry? Just like, all right, done talking about this for half an hour.
Exactly. Yeah. A few other things I picked up. I mean, it was great to meet like some of the YouTubers there, like Ken I knew, but the Epic Guy and LGR were nice. They're very, LGR had a huge setup of stuff, so I bought like some little doodads from him. I did buy an Atari printer. I forget the model of it, but it was basically new in box. Like the box was open, but everything else was like sealed inside of it. And big thanks to Adam to helping me get that shipped out. And then I got I got two keyboards. Adam was showing the keyboard that he got. There was a Tangerine and a Blueberry one. And then I just picked up like some zip disks. There was a book I picked up, some small things I could shove in my luggage. There was some freebie pile stuff, some software. I think that was about it. I mean, there was a lot of little things like towards the end of the show.
One big thing. Hey.
Yes, and Ron is also in the possession of that. I'm sure it has today's newspaper already holding it. And so Super Mole Steve here was selling a Macintosh 512K-E, and I was very surprised it didn't sell. I know it wasn't 100% happy. It needed some retooling, but I kept walking by, and he had the box for it, and it was just like I would see it out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, no, you can't bring that home. There's no way you can bring that home. And so I think I went to Ron's room to get something that I left there. And, I started talking to Steve about it, and we started to chat about it. And then I walked by the table later on. He gives me an offer I can't refuse. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll figure out the logistics of it later. So Ron will have to be paid off handsomely to keep these things fed and well groomed for the next, period of time before I come pick the goodies up.
It looks great in my storage. Climate controlled storage. They're doing fine, all three kids.
But it was a great piece. I mean, the box there, all the styrofoam inserts, the keyboard, just missing a mouse in the accessory box, which I'm in it for the machine. That's all. I didn't have a 512Ke, so I greatly appreciate the deal there, Steve, and I'm very excited to get that working up.
I'm looking forward to the video.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's gonna throw me for a loop, but I'm excited because I never had to repair one of those analog boards before, so I'll probably electrocute myself. So that's good.
First time for everything.
Yeah.
You kind of hit on something a second ago because you brought up the names of some kind of bigger community people that were there at the show. Do we want to just kind of do, like, for this segment, kind of like an open forum? People could just throw in their memories and funny things and stuff like that about the sessions that they had during the
Real
event.
quick before we move on, I just want to touch on one last thing.
Sure.
This show, the difference with this show though is, and you guys might have gone to other shows, maybe like a video game show or a vintage toy show or any other shows like that. A lot of times we're used to like high prices, right? You go there, you like see something you want, and it's like eBay prices. The one thing that was right on the line with this show is that everything was going for deals, and the vendor would even take off more than what the deal was and work with you. There was almost no deals that were said no. It was just, I couldn't believe it. That it was shocking how many deals there was at that show.
Oh yeah. No, you're right. Thank you for throwing that in.
Yeah, that's the way it is every year that I've been there. There's always everyone willing to work with you, and the prices are usually very, very reasonable up there. There's nobody trying to scalp a person.
Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, I bought that Mac 2 and it came with a keyboard, right?
Yeah.
Well, the guy says test it out, and I find out this key is bad. He says, "Oh, well, have another keyboard." So, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, twist my arm.
Sure.
Oh, that's the last thing I forgot that I picked up. And again, people being very reasonable in prices. There was a guy who wasn't always at the table, but he had a bunch of Mac PCI and AGP cards. And so I bought one card, and then I swung around, and Ron and I were trying to fix something. So while looking around for a paper clip, I stumbled upon the guy again, and he had a Mac Voodoo 5 card, and I picked that up for a good price. I'm very excited to play with it because I've never had any real Voodoo stuff before. So
that's the price that it was on Saturday afternoon, because I went and I asked about it because I was thinking, oh, this might be something that either Steve or maybe Ken would be interested in, and then I was like, that seems really expensive.
yeah,
and
it was half of that when I got to it.
Well,
I mean, I
same
bought a bunch
guy.
of other things too.
Steve, that was the same guy who sold me the 2CI that also had this awesome video card in it. Which
Yeah.
is probably five times as much as what I paid for the whole thing.
Don't tell him that. Yeah.
Did he have
No.
multiple 2CIs over that guy? Did he have multiple ones over
He
there?
had 2 of them. They were both basically identical, except for one of them didn't have this video card in it.
Oh, okay.
So
Those
yeah,
are the
the
best
two-
finds when you find a computer and you open it up and there's like a gem treasure chest of cards in there. That's the best for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think the myth of, certain machines, whether it be a Macintosh or another machine, being very expensive and unobtainable, just at these shows, it's completely smashed. I mean, the Free Geek table had, I think it was a processor upgraded G4 AGP, graphite model with a 23-inch Apple Cinema display, the plastic model, and it was $100 for the entire kit. I mean, you can't go wrong with stuff like that. I mean, I know that Ron, I think you picked up some classic Macs. They were under they were only like $20,
like
$30.
$25 for a SE to replace the case on the SEI melted.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, for that money, I mean, that's why we were all like, no, we're not going to buy much, and we ended up walking away with way too much.
Yeah,
I shipped 3 boxes of stuff home. So
there you go.
that's great.
I feel like I should level up like Steve Mac 84 did and make you guys take my stuff. I'd be like, I didn't come home with anything.
Yeah.
Ron's got it in an air conditioned place.
Air conditioned storage place.
So very cool. Since we're starting to get a little pressed for time, we probably should go ahead and move on and talk about the sessions at the event. We did have some big people from the YouTube community that were there, and even a few people that maybe didn't have a session, but it was kind of neat to run into them. The big 4 that I could kind of think of, other than maybe people that are in this chat right now, would be Clint from LGR, Ken from Ken's Computer Clan, and also David Murray from 8-Bit Guy. and he was kind of sharing part of his station with somebody that people maybe don't recognize right away, but Techalec was there. So if you wanted to talk about some of the cool projects that Kevin has been working on, you could kind of just pull him aside and say, hey, this is neat and whatever. But let's just open it kind of free form. If you sat in on the sessions, and let's hear what you learned. Or actually, because there was two. There was the first session that was
Yeah,
8-Bit Guy did stuff
like
about
a
the
show and
demo
tell.
scene. So let's talk demo scene first, and then we'll talk about the main YouTuber session later.
Okay, I mean, I can throw something in about what the 8-Bit Guy did. Certainly a pleasure to hear him talk. He only talked for like 20 minutes before he changed to Q&A. So it was a little leave you wanting more. But the cool thing that he did is I liked that he bridged from just the nerding about having the machines and the nostalgia to how you code some of the demos even today. And he showed you like the effect of the code, like how you make things go faster than seem possible in the machine. So that was really cool because that's one of his talents, right? Is that he's a hardcore assembly programmer, and I really enjoyed that. What about you? How about you guys? What do you think?
I only stepped in for a little bit. I did see that they were recording a lot of the events, and I overheard somebody saying that they will be on YouTube. So I sort of took that as an opportunity. While the floor was a little less dense to go shopping a bit, but
yeah, half the people were in that session probably.
Yeah, exactly. But I did catch a bit of it, and it was very well orchestrated as far as you have a visual on the screen. He was explaining things. Always nice to see, those types of demos and stuff like that on a larger scale.
I skipped David's first presentation, so I can't really comment on it.
I thought it was pretty interesting. He had a lot of different things, and that kind of the idea is you might look at a demo these days with your modern eyes and be like, oh, well, this, whatever, it's not all that impressive. But the demo scene was kind of all about pushing the hardware to the limits, doing things that people maybe hadn't thought about before, and really kind of flexing that programming muscle. So I've always been really impressed by that. But like a lot of younger people that I kind of like heard kind of chatting like while that session was going on, they were like, oh, I never really understood that this was something different. I just thought that was something people did at the beginning of cracked games.
Yeah, I guess you have that perspective of you're not aware of that. It's sort of news to you.
So anything else about the demo session? No? Okay. Well, there was a second session on Saturday afternoon that was specifically featured LGR and Ken from Ken's Computer Clan and Dave Murray, 8-Bit Guy, just kind of talking about working that YouTube game and kind of what it takes to be maybe a professional sort of YouTuber. Did anybody glean any kind of knowledge from that?
Oh, I love the whole thing. I thought that was fantastic.
It's great. It was great. It was great to hear their experiences, and even with my tiny little channel, just the similar parallels that I experience that they experience. You always want to do better, and I think as LGR mentioned, the algorithm always hates you, or the statistics always hate you. They always tell you you're doing terrible. So it keeps you. That can keep you going too, and that's the case with me.
I liked how they all agreed that the video that they all think is the best video they've ever made always turns out to be the worst video as far as views or ratings.
So true.
Yeah, it was very comforting to hear all their pitfalls, things that we've all experienced before or have had some sort of inkling with before, and also their differences, their different approaches, how Ken has sort of like a schedule, or how David had a schedule or whatever, and oh well, this will be the next few months I sort of have lined up, and Clint of LGR was basically like, no, I just whatever I'm working on the week that ends up sort of being a video. Obviously he has some things that he's planning in the background, but it's sort of more of a loose type thing. But you also have to consider the subscriber base of those individual YouTubers. Somebody's had a strong subscriber base for 10 years or plus like that. It doesn't really matter, I guess, the subject. The people sort of like what you put out. It's one of those things where if you're consistent with the schedule, even if it's a thrifting episode or whatever you do, the people will come to see it. So it's nice to sort of see that there were differences there. You don't all have to follow the same exact playbook, and it was very nice hearing the different experiences and a lot of the moments of of humor shared between the group.
We just touch on how friendly they were in person too, right? So, I mean, with the, like you were saying, Steve, with the size of their channels and being able to chat with them after, I mean, they had to talk to, I don't know how many people they probably went through, right? But they stuck up there all the way to the end and talked to almost everybody that came up to the booth. And again, just super friendly, created a really nice conversation. And it was just, I was really impressed.
Yeah, they were there. I think David left a bit earlier than Ken and Clint on the Sunday, but they were there to the bitter end. They were packing up and everything, and they were very kind to answer questions, and I'm sure they got just an onslaught of people, especially after the YouTube talk, if you didn't get your question answered and so on and so forth. But I enjoyed particularly the question. I forget the moderator's name, but he did an amazing job of interviewing them. Yeah.
Trickster.
Yep. And I look forward to rewatching some of that on YouTube because I missed some bits. But the story that Clint says of the question was, have you ever been seen in public? And he tells a story about basically a guy following him into the bathroom stall. Just into the bathroom, not the stall itself, but it's like what it was just funny, like hearing a whole crowd react to some of these things and understand that they're all human. Obviously they have a bit of a status among us geeks, but they all started somewhere, and it was very inspiring from a person who creates content to have similar people saying similar things that you may be thinking, or you may be putting yourself down about, oh, I didn't do this, that, etc.
That's definitely one to watch in syndication. It's worth finding and watching. For folks who are watching this, go watch it. You'll love it.
To put it back to Ron, the sort of as a leading thing, I would now first off, if you look at the six of us, whatever here, that you can see, and those guys, it's all these middle-aged dudes. And so there's like this fractal nature of the way personalities are, though, and the way they engage. Like you can go into more detail. Those were 3 different personalities. Some of them use their sense of humor in their videos and some don't. So you see David's sense of humor in real life, and Ron, you have a sort of a pervasiveness of, you see the sense of humor in your videos, and then I got to see it in real life. Those were some of the real fun things where it literally made it human. I'm not intimidated by David Murray's success there because he has the same sense of humor. If he's got a set of people waiting for him, he's he can get exhausting and all that stuff. But what did you think, Ron?
Yes.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, thank you. No, I absolutely agree that you see people's character kind of that they play on their channel, and some of that, like I would say Voltar is probably like a great one. I bring him up all the time, where it's like Voltar as a character is like, for his little videos and stuff, it's one thing, but then you watch him do like the retro RGB podcast and stuff, and it's just like just a regular guy and just cutting up and things like that. So I appreciate kind of seeing the human side of these kind of giants in our industry, if you can call them that. But I know people give David Murray a hard time. He's kind of one of those guys that like leaves his foibles in the video so that people can kind of see it's like, yeah, you can screw up and do things and you learn and you live, I guess. But on Friday, like he was over there frantically, like folding boxes and stuff like that. And it's like, hey, just lend your hand for a couple of minutes. It's like, there was a lot of that going on at the show where people needed, like, where it was like, Clint is so nice to like listen to the same question over and over again, or people were like I heard kind of a younger guy go up to him. He's like, "Can you do the Duke Nukem voice?" and stuff. And I'm sure he's asked to do that all the time, where he's like, "Look, I'm trying to pee here," or whatever. But it was just, it was so great to kind of see these guys kind of at their best and shining. So, did anybody Sunday sorry, I'm tongue-tied. Did anybody on Sunday go to the televideo session? Okay, I was going to say that looked really exciting, but Supermole and I were hitting the road trying to get back to Cape. So So Dave, what,
Yeah, so,
how did it go?
so Patrick Finnegan, I think is his name.
Yes.
He's I think he's one of the people that founded either a club or VCF Midwest. He runs the data center at Purdue University, if I remember correctly. Super smart guy, but he just dug deep into a project that he did. He did this crazy thing. He had a watch on eBay for any televideo equipment, and he got I think it's called a TS80 or a T80S. It's like the first televideo computer. Televideo is making VT terminals, kind of like knockoffs of what DEC was doing. What they did is they took their motherboard and they put a Z80 machine on the same board as the 6502 based terminal. So now the terminal is a whole computer. And this dude bought an unpopulated prototype motherboard that came up on eBay that there's no schematic for, nothing. He photographed it, reverse engineered it completely, got the 60 ICs, redesigned the portions where he couldn't get the old ICs, made the whole thing work. It's a networked computer that does 800 kilobaud in like 1981, I believe. The thing was like one of the fastest star-based topology networks with file server. And then he was just super modest. It was a short presentation, 20 minutes, and then Q&A. But you're just like, I wanted to know more. I said I would have listened to that for an hour. Like he could have told me about how the subsystems worked, and he did it a lot of it during the pandemic. But super neat. I love that kind of stuff, like that hackathon kind of stuff. And there was probably only like 30 people in that. So if you're afraid to ask a question when there's 150 people in the room, you could certainly ask it there. And yeah, but cool.
And he had a brilliant display out in the vendor area of all of his televideo equipment, and everything was set up on a desk. There were terminals. You could just sit down and use any of it. I thought it was pretty impressive. I'm really sorry I didn't get to see it. I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Oh yeah, the recording should be up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to catch that one. That's what's great too. You know, the people who are putting on this event, they know that some people are just going to come for the day, or they're going to get, busy doing this or that. So I think that's really cool that they recorded these events, because not only is it a promotion for next year's thing that'll happen, but it's a way to spread awareness about the event and document some of the cool things that occurred.
Yeah. There was also, speaking of sessions, there was an auction that's kind of a famous part of this event that helps fund the actual renting of the facility and covering the fees just associated with putting the show on every year. Did anybody attend the auction, and did they purchase anything?
I attended. I didn't purchase, but I know somebody who did.
I was at the auction for a little while, but I didn't buy anything.
Yep. So I was at the auction the entire time. And, I know Steve was there, and I know you mentioned, oh yeah, the Mac stuff was gone. I'm going to just go back out. And then the auction is a wonderful thing, because just like you said, Ron, the whole point of it is that the event venue costs thousands and thousands of dollars to rent, right, for the weekend. And since there's no entry fee, that's what helps cover the cost, right? So people will bring in things that they no longer need and donate them to the show, and then they can put them in the garage sale out front or the auction. So they wheel in these racks, and they're all numbered, and the room's packed, and they start the auction. And there was everything that you could imagine at this auction, from PC to Mac to Atari to, again, all the stuff that you saw on the floor. Well, it was in here. And the interesting thing is that some of it was in great condition. Some of it you didn't know what was going on, but it was also the kind of as is condition, right? So there were some deals, but some of the stuff went for a little higher, because the bottom line is it was all going to a good cause. It was all going to fund the show. So I saw a couple of things that I was looking at, but I didn't really kind of bid at. And like Steve said, the Mac stuff was gone, and I was like, I still like some of the PC stuff, but they didn't have anything I was interested in. And then all of a sudden they pull out a Mac Portable. And I've always thought that the Mac Portable is one of the neatest, portable laptops ever created. And obviously I got a lot of interest in what Steve has been doing and restoring them in his videos. So I saw them pull it out, and it had the case and everything, no power supply, and it wouldn't power on. But as Steve knows, almost every single one needs some sort of help. They just don't last. They need to be recapped. They need new batteries, all this stuff. But they're going for a decent amount. They're valuable. So this thing starts going, and I was kind of surprised and caught off guard by it. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe I should go for it. And I'm like, I need an adult. I need a Steve. I need someone to help me here, because I didn't know really the value, right?
Yeah, Ryan texted me as it's going on, and I think I was with Ron in his room trying to put something aside so I could carry it home later or whatever. And I'm like, oh no, there's Macintosh portables in the auction and I can't get there fast enough.
And I know you were looking for parts too. So I was thinking maybe if it goes for cheap, you could just use some of the parts. So then the hammer drops for 65 bucks. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And as you know, like the bag could go for like 70 bucks, right? So it's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And then they pull out another one. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I'm not going to let this one pass. And what's interesting is this one was a lot better condition. It had a power supply and it did have some sort of power with a chime. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can go for this. And they start auctioning it off and it starts getting up. It gets past 65, obviously. And then it ends at, I think 100. And I think I bid it up to 100. And then the guy was striking down, and then something happened where he's like, where they stopped the auction and they're like, oh, well, wait a minute, did we have the number right? And then I just said, I just put up my bid. I'm like 110. And then he's like, okay, that's the new number.
Nice.
He's like, what? And then the guy didn't come back. He's like, once, twice sold. I'm like, I'm the new owner of a Mac Portable.
That's
So-
awesome.
That's
so
awesome.
that's what I pulled. I pulled that home from the auction, and Steve was nice enough to give me the whole grand tour and what it'll need to get it going again. So I really appreciate that, Steve.
Oh,
But
that was in great shape too, Ryan. That portable, it was in pretty damn good shape for $110.
so I was really happy, and thank you for giving me the rundown of that, and hopefully we can get it running again. But that was my experience in the auction. It was a pretty fun event for sure.
Very cool. Hey guys, I know that
Yeah,
we kind
this
of.
year-
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Oh.
ahead. Go ahead,
Oh,
Supermole.
I was just going to say this year I didn't even attempt to attend because the massive crowd outside the doors to go in, I wasn't about to go in there. But I usually donate something every year just to help with funding the thing. I think this year I put in a Mac 6116 CD in a box and a couple Commodore disk drives.
Oh, is that the Performa?
Yeah, that went for a good
Yeah.
bit.
That was one of the ones that actually went for a decent amount. And that was one of the most exciting things, is when someone got into a bidding war. And let me give a really quick story. There was one item in the entire auction that went for a super bidding war, and it was basically a sealed copy of OS2 Warp and a OS2 Warp hat that was like from the OS2 Warp IBM team. So there was two OS Warp fans, and when going back and forth, it went for over $200.
Wow.
It was just
Oh,
funny to
nice.
see. All you needed was two bidders going for something, and you got yourself an exciting auction. So that was, and again, the Performer went for a decent amount, Steve.
Mhm.
Yeah,
remember
I
seeing
have
that.
I took video footage of the Mac stuff because I want to sort of smash that, myth that they're so expensive, because at auction even they weren't going for a lot. So yeah.
Absolutely. So sorry, what I wanted to say is that we did kind of agree on a 1 hour kind of time for this. So there were a couple of other things I wanted to get through, just to make sure that everybody can have a little bit of a wrap up and stuff here at the end. But and we'll just freeform this as well. Do you have any regrets about the show? And will you be back next year?
I have a regret. So right before the show, I bought a really nice Packard Bell system on eBay, and I thought it was a great price.
Oh yes, I knew this
Then
is
I
going,
got to the
Chris.
show and realized it wasn't such a great price when there was a Packard Bell system with a monitor sitting there for $45, and I'm sure I could have found a way home.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, as far as going next year, yeah, absolutely, I'll be there, and maybe I'll bring some boxes or suitcases or something.
And Chris, that's exactly what I was laughing about. I'm thinking to myself, wow, if you're a Packard Bell fan at this show, it's like Christmas
time.
in September. There was so many there in great condition, and I know you saw those there. That was great.
Yeah, I was surprised there was so much Apple stuff there too, though. I was thinking, just generic computer convention is going to be all IBM stuff, but obviously I brought home a lot of junk. But I want to go back next year, and I'm going to probably bring some PC stuff that I don't want, like 5-year-old laptops and stuff like that I have just laying around. I don't even want to sell them. I'll just give them to them to put in the auction.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Adam. I my only regret is I flew both ways. If I drove back, it would have freed up some. Like you said, you would have brought some stuff and take some stuff back.
Road trip, Steve. We got to do.
Yeah, I think we got to do that next time. But I'm certainly coming back for sure.
So Ron, if I were to combine your two things about regrets or next year, it would be a regret if I don't plan ahead further next year. The two things that I loved about it were the demo tables. So I honestly would have considered, if I knew what it was like, but it was only my first one, I might get a table next time and see what the experience is like that way. This was not having a table and just having complete freedom is definitely the best way to do it the first time you go, because you're going to want to see all this stuff and get a real good read and not plant yourself in one place for half the show. But the other thing is, I would love to give a talk, and I know this was a pandemic one where they only had a few slots that they decided to do. But if they could have a whole track, right? It could be half day of 20, 30-minute talks. And I think that would be super fun to just explore in the future. And I guess I would regret not dedicating a little more time in advance to consider those.
And the only thing I wanted to mention that we didn't really talk, we mentioned it briefly, was the free table. And that's one of the most famous things of this show. And what that is that if you just got a random computer stuff that might not go in the garage sale or the auction, you just put it on the free table. So there was 4 tables set up, and there was literally anything you could think of was landing on these tables. And I was monitoring that. I grabbed a couple things for myself, but there was other things in there that I realized that I'm like, if you're starting out, this is a perfect project. And I saw kids and teenagers walking away with computer towers, monitors, all kinds of things. And that was what was cool about it. It's like, you didn't have to have money to start. You can literally just walk away with a vintage tech, and then you're going. And this one guy brought in an entire case. There must have been 1,000 cassettes. And I asked the guy, I'm like, where did these come from? He's like, oh yeah, they came from a radio station that went out of business. So if you need cassettes, boom, they were there. You know, there was an EMAC there that was working. That was just sitting free on the table. There was just, I mean, there was a Sony Trinitron monitor that was sitting on the table. All these amazing things, and the best part was, everybody was very courteous too. There was not like one guy walking up with a cart and taking everything away. Everybody just took like one thing that they would like, and they walked away. And that was just a fun part to watch over the weekend.
Absolutely. So your regret is that you didn't take more stuff off the
free.
Oh,
no.
I get it.
I should have put more stuff on it.
I got this cool PS2 mouse.
Oh yeah, cool.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got some software, I think, that Ryan found, the Macintosh Exchange box.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
flattened. It was flattened, but I'll make it look good.
Oh, Steve, that reminds me about the Mac Bible. Remember that?
Oh yeah. So real quick, Ryan found a piece of software, and now the software just says Mac Bible on it. So Ryan and I initially thought it was just some sort of like Macintosh like reference guide or whatever. No, it's a version of the Bible for Macintosh on multiple discs. And I know that Clint of LGR has an odd fascination for, you know, religious software and weird stuff like that. So we brought it over to him as a joke, and I think Ryan was like, do you want it? And he's like, heck yeah. And I have a great picture of Ryan like handing it off to Clint, and they're both smiling like dorks. It's fantastic.
That's awesome.
And Steve and I were worried that it would end up back on the free table later in the day.
Yeah, we said you can put it there if you want. You know?
Super Mole.
My regret was not visiting the guy's table that had this stuff on it earlier in the show. I got these on the last day, I believe. So I missed everything that he may have had that was really cool that I missed out on. So I'm still happy to get what I got, though. Don't get me wrong.
I think I'll definitely be back next year. I think my regret, though, is that I did not sit down and do more of the interactive exhibits, because there were a lot of people there that were that just had like, here is a pristine example of some machine, you could sit down and do it. Like there were people that they had a mainframe emulated, and people were playing Colossal Cave Adventure. And you could just sit down and you could ask the guy that wrote this mainframe emulator anything you wanted to ask him. And I regret not doing more of those experiences. There were also people that had tables where they were just doing repairs, like people that just showed up to do repairs all weekend. And there was like people that were kind of ferrying machines over to the table, and he's touching up some soldering. All right, you're good to go. And it just that kind of community thing. So if I could experience more of those things next year, and like Dave said, contribute to more of those experiences next year, if it was like assisting with a talk or something like that, that'd be amazing. I'd love to do that. So, well, we've blown way past our time, guys, and I really appreciate everybody taking time out of their evening to kind of sit down and have this discussion and share this stuff. And hopefully we've got people excited about joining us next year at this event. So I guess let's just go ahead and let's do kind of a quick wrap up, and I'll kind of call everybody individually. If you would, if it's Twitter you'd like to promote, or Facebook, or YouTube, or you've got a Instagram page, or whatever it is you'd like to promote, now is absolutely the time to do that. So let's just start. Adam.
I don't have a YouTube channel. You can find me on Twitter though. My handle is alt Shatner, and I just post weird stuff, mostly whatever machine I'm working on at the time, or just random stuff that I find. And you should probably watch all these other guys because they have cool content.
That's how I found Adam, is that all the cool Mac stuff that he posts on Twitter, he's always doing some kind of cool pickup or doing a repair or something. So definitely get throwing what is it? How is it? You follow. Ooh, sorry. I'm getting new. I'm getting new with all the lingo. So Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And if you like IBM PCs, great. If you like Macs, I have a work MacBook Pro around here somewhere, but one of these days I'll get into the Mac scene. But yeah, Retro Tech Chris on YouTube.
Cool. Dave.
Yeah, as I said, I'm Dr. Dave's Diversions on YouTube. Come on over to my channel. Ron was talking about contributing. What he did is did a whole walkthrough of the whole show in a half an hour and put the video up during the show. What I decided to do instead is, instead of going to the auction, I went and interviewed people that I thought were my personal choice for the best of the show. There was no real best of the show, but I had my favorites. And so I put up a very short video where I interviewed a great guy, a college student that's running a PDP 1123 with Unix version 6 from 1975. Amazing. Played around with him kind of like a hackathon thing. Super cool. So check that out over on my channel. And other than that, I got some cool Amiga hardware projects like this PCB that we're going to make available. So if you're interested in doing something with my project with beta testing it, drop me a line by my email address on YouTube. Thanks.
Very cool. Mr. McIntosh.
Yeah, it was great meeting all you guys this year, and hopefully next year I can meet you, Adam, and you, Dave, next year. But I'll definitely be back next year, definitely. And I hope you guys will all be able to make it too. It was again really great meeting you. And if you want to follow me, I'm again Mr. McIntosh on Twitter, YouTube, and like I said, I cover all new Macintosh stuff. And if you guys just recently followed me, I apologize for all the tweets that I've been sending out this week. There was a big thing going on with macOS Big Sur and Apple, so you're probably thinking, what did I get myself into following this guy? But normally I don't tweet that much. But thanks so much, Ron, for putting a wonderful time and inviting me here. And I think this is a really great idea to get us all together.
Very cool. Super Bowl.
Yeah, Steve, my channel is Super Bowl Retro on YouTube, and same thing on Instagram, Super Bowl Retro. My channel is, mostly comic books. I do touch on vintage software sometimes on my channel. That's pretty much my focus.
Cool. Mac 84. I know you need a lot of help, man. It's you got this real low profile these days.
It's Mac, and then there's two numbers, and I cannot remember. 83? No, damn. 84. That's it. So Mac 84 on YouTube. There we go. I almost ran out of buttons, so that was a cool thing. I made a bunch of buttons in 2019 for events and stuff, which didn't happen, obviously. And so I brought them to VCF Midwest, and I almost ran out of the buttons I was giving out. It was a shock and sort of like a humbling experience to have people recognize you. And it was sort of like a very, very, very strange thing. But I signed some floppy disks. I got some selfies with people. It was really strange. There you go. See, Adam has one too.
It's the fan club.
It's the fan club. Thank you for your checks. They all cleared. And so yeah, it was super exciting to meet everybody. It was really cool. So Mac 84 TV on YouTube, Mac 84 TV on Twitter and Instagram, and it's just plain old Mac 84 on YouTube. It's the under 6 character username that some platforms do or do not like.
And again, I'm Ron. This is Ron's Computer Videos. I did make some pins. Javier from like Jabmaster, I think is his YouTube channel. He helped me make them better where they don't look so cluttered. So there'll be like a version 2 that'll come out for an event probably in the future. But yeah, you can follow me on the Twitters at I think it's Ron Comp Vids, and and just Ron's computer videos here on the YouTube.
Ron's
So,
his own worst fan. Try Ron Comp Vids or
Ron
Google
Comp,
it.
yeah, just Google it. I'm out there somewhere probably. So everybody, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And thank you to everybody that's watching this video. Hopefully we have inspired you to check out Vintage Computer Festival Midwest. And
Nailed it.
And we'll try and give Ron all the links to the videos and the output that we're doing. So we'll put in the video description. So any of our channels, any of our videos and things we mentioned, you could find it there.
Yeah, we'll have everybody linked down in the doobly-doo. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us and have a great evening.
Bye.
Nice to see you guys again. Have a good evening.
Night.
This video was brought to you with the help of my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to know more about how you can support the channel for as little as $1 a month, please click the link in the video description. Thanks for watching.